Mobile pastoralism encompasses the varying ways that people move through the landscape with their livestock. The word pastoralism derives from the Latin word pastorales, meaning of herdsman of shepherds, and refers to raising livestock. There are three main forms of mobile pastoralism: nomadic, semi nomadic, and transhumant. The differences are mostly based on whether or not the entire family or community moves with the herd. Pastoralists of this area practice transhumant pastoralism. The village I choose to study pastoralism is Lakshmanpur Tanda, located in Nagar Karnool district of Telangana. These are around 419 households at Lakshmanpur Tanda. Only 16 households still keep large herds that consist of 20 to 150 animals, and only 6 out of the 16 households are actively involved in the mobile pastoralism. A closer look at the communities living in these areas shows that most of the families are based on cattle and pastoralism as occupation. Local cattle of this area is Poda Turupu. In Telugu, Poda means spot and Turupu means east. These are medium-sized, hardy indigenous cattle breed belonging to the drought power group. They are low maintenance and doesn't require any specific cattle food. The villagers participate in two phases of pastoralism: short distance pastoralism from Lakshmanpur to Girizigandu near the Srisailam reservoir, and long distance pastoralism continues from the village to Kollur in Andhra Pradesh. There are two trails followed by the pastoralists, and here is the map showing the entire trail stretches. They are situated in between the states of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. On the basis of seasons, the paths of the pastoralists change due to the fodder availability and overgrazing issues those seasons. Also, crops play a major role in the trail paths of them, as the major crop seasons Kharif and Rabi. The major crop in and around the villages is also paddy. After the harvest of the crop, pastoralists can feed on the grounds, which has a high nutritional value and also without poisonous weeds. During long distance pastoralism, villagers reach Kollur by passing through various destinations like Madhyamadugu, Girizigandu, Chigurupadu, Satyanapalli, Guntur and Tenali, traveling about 235 kilometers. This is carried out during February to June. Combination evergreen deciduous forests, drylands and different crops varieties can be found along the path. Streams of Krishna river settles near Nagarjuna Sagar and is further flowed towards Lakshmanpur. It is locally called as Dindi river. Deciduous forests contain wide variety of fruiting trees and common trees, from which the pastoralists and villagers collect the fruits from, while the cattle grazes the grasses and rest under the shade of these trees. Crop type of Telangana mostly are grown through the rain shade, as the area becomes dry and drained during other seasons, while most of the crops in Andhra Pradesh are grown through irrigation system and flooding of the river. Once the crops are cultivated and collected, the residual crop material which is left to burn is grazed by the cattle of Lakshmanpur. This is residual crop is more nutritious when compared to local fodder available in the village. This is one of the major reasons for the pastoralism in this village. Trail is also met with large city clusters of Guntur in Andhra Pradesh. Detailed maps are extracted from ArcGIS showing the topography, vegetation and hydrology for the short and long distance paths for the in-depth understanding of the existing conditions. Longitudinal sections of the path are shown to visualize the situation of the pastoralists in the evergreen and forests. During short distance pastoralism, villagers travel approximately 40 kilometers to reach Girizigandu through Ahmedabad Tiger Reserve Forest. This is carried out during July to January. Looking closely at a portion of the long distance trail, the first destination is Madhyamadugu. Change in the grass type through this portion of the trail. The grass is categorized by the location of their growth: near dense vegetation, under shade, at higher elevations, near wetlands, and at plain lands. In order to recognize the issues and the practiced solutions, I choose to analyze different cases with similar context and challenges faced. School Tanda starts its pastoral path from Kamareddy district in Telangana. The seasonal long distance migration of pastoralists of School Tanda commences immediately after celebration of Diwali festival, which is usually the last week of October or the first week of November, and continues up to June. Pastoralists of School Tanda stay home for about 5 months from July to October, during which the cattle herds are grazed predominantly over the village commons, cultivable fallows, and the adjacent forest areas. Many customarily used grazing patches are located inside the adjacent forest. The global example, a transhuman nomadic pastoralism group along the dryland, is Maasai tribe from Africa. Maasai people are often viewed as a nomadic tribe who follows their herds to better grazing lands and water. They follow a certain method of movement for the pastoralism and settlement since ages that is helpful to track the healthy fodder, water bodies, and segregation of spaces in the settlement. Large areas of grazing land were also turned into game reserves, and pastoralists were not allowed to enter these reserves. They could neither hunt animals nor graze their herds in these areas. The loss of the finest grazing lands and water resources created pressure on the small area of land, difficulties in feeding the cattle, for which they started practice of agro-pastoralism. Part of their motivation has been to protect their land from encroachment by other ethnic groups, as farmers have more secure land tenure than livestock keepers. This agricultural development has been economically beneficial to the Maasai. However, ox flowing and cultivation have been adopted with little regard for the environment. After the analysis of the existing site conditions and with the knowledge of the case studies, I recognize the issues faced by the pastoralists for this area and proposal of the possible solutions. Major issue of occurs fodder scarcity, as the pastoralists are confined to certain areas due to various reasons. Repetitive movement through the same trail leads to overgrazing at few portions. In order to avoid this, agro-pastoralism can be used as a tool to avoid this and grow the fodder near the villages without putting the strain on the environment. Due to the lack of study about the grass available in the region, outburst of disease called place Gaddirogam grass disease took place, as it was assumed that grazing some type of grass causes the diseases. Proliferation of exotic weeds like lantana camera, which is responsible for suppression of fodder species, and also death of Anvari cattle, especially the young ones. It is an invasive weed grown near the agricultural lands and riparian edges. It can be suggested that the areas at which weeds is available should be avoided, and the officials should educate in the identification of such harmful fodder. Another major issue faced by them is restrictions on access to customary grazing lands located inside forests. To this day, due to the misconception of overgrazing, it is suggested that pastoralism with certain time intervals should be considered instead of complete restrictions. Farmers in this area tend to burn the residual crop after cultivation, which can be very nutritious for the cattle than the local grass. It is suggested that this residual crop should be left to pastoral cattle to graze upon. If the time descent allow, pastures at various should be allotted with the collected residual crop enough for the cattle to graze through different seasons. Encroachment and the change in the land use restricts the pastoral trail and location of camping sites, which is followed by these groups from ages. It is suggested that the areas at which these pastoral camps and move should be recognized as special zone, and it is to be limited for only pastoralism. Master plan of the short trail is seen along with the issues and problems in and around the trail map. Suitable location is selected to be designed as per the landscape architect interventions around the trail.